Yeah. It's good to see you again, Mike. So I guess one thing that I'm always curious about, and I think other people are curious about, is well, how the hell do you get a job at a brewery?
Well, for me, I was a walk-on, so I knew the owners.
Okay.
The owners were friends of mine. We had drank together throughout the years. I had met them shortly after they got out of college. They owned a bar very close to my house. We did quite a bit of learning about beers.
Right, well, drinking. Yeah.
And what happened was they were busy and they needed some help. So I said, let me come in and see what I can do. And so I came in. It worked with my brain. You know, as far as the multitasking and the always being on certain, I'm a very anal person when it comes to time.
Right.
So, and that comes in very handy when it comes to brewing and cellar work and everything else, because everything pretty much is on time of some sort. So, and you're always doing 15 different things at the same time.
Right.
So for me, I came in, basically, I walked in there in September of 06. And by January of 07, they had started production facility and abandoned me at the Elm Street facility. And I was running the show pretty much by myself 4 months later. So I went from knowing beer, but not knowing anything about making beer, to knowing everything about making beer, not really understand. A lot of times when I talk to people, I say, I learned all of the hows without learning any of the whys, which I did. I learned how to do everything, but I didn't know why I was doing any of it.
Right.
So it took me several years to basically understand the whys and understand why I was mashing at this temperature and why I was using this yeast and why I had to CIP with these chemicals and everything else. So I mean,
it sounds like you did it the hard way, man.
I did it the very hard way, yes. But it worked out, you know. It worked out for me anyways, you know. And I got in at the right time too. I mean, you're talking 2007, there was 14 breweries in the state or something like that. You know?
Now there's over 70.
Well, there's 100.
Tomorrow it'll be different though. The stats change every day.
No, I think right now we're at 112 or something like that. Yeah,
wow.
We're way over 70.
I can't keep up with it.
You probably got 70 on this street.
People ask me all the time, you hear about this new brewery? I'm like,
Wake
no,
County, they're popping up every 2 days these days. So.
Well, we got 3 in Durham now. We got Pony Source, Bull City Burger and Brewery, and Full Steam. Yeah. 4, sorry, Triangle.
Triangle, right.
Sorry, Triangle. I didn't mean to leave you out. But yeah, man. So you've been brewing here, what you say, about 8 years?
I've been brewing at the Greensboro facility for 8 years.
Okay.
Yes. I've been the director of pub brewing operations for the past 2 years over both the pubs. So basically what I did was I came in and I coordinated all the taps between the 2 pubs.
Right.
So right now, if you went to Greensboro's, if you went to the Natty Greens in Greensboro, you would have exactly the same taps and exactly the same batches of beer that you're having here.
Okay, so it's more about logistics and keeping the beer flowing.
It's about consistency. It's about consistency of product and making it a true franchise as far as the Natty's franchise goes.
You're trying to keep both locations the same, right?
They're identical.
Okay.
As far as beer goes, they're absolutely identical because it's exactly the same batch of beer. We don't even if we have Southern on here, it's exactly the same batch of Southern that's on in Greensboro. No matter what the beer is, it's exactly the same beer.
Well, that's got to be kind of complicated.
It's very complicated.
What if, for instance, the Hefeweizen is more popular at one location than the other? How do you keep it? I mean, you'd have to not split the batch. You'd have to.
Well, what I do is I monitor the numbers every Monday. So what I do is I take my inventory numbers and I take the sales figures of both pubs and I put them all together in a bunch of Excel spreadsheets
then you can work it out that
I've built.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've built a lot of spreadsheets that will tell me how long the beer is going to last at each location and whether I need to take beer from one to the other or vice versa.
I love spreadsheets, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they help me out so much in my job.
And the thing is, I've been crunching our numbers since the day I walked in the door. So I know, at least in Greensboro, I know our demographic better than anybody in the company. I know exactly what's going to sell, exactly what week of whatever year. So I can look back. I can look back at 2008 and say, wow, in the 4th week of 2008, we sold this much Weizenbach. It didn't sell. Do we really want to brew it again? So that's how we decide what gets rebrewed, what doesn't get rebrewed. You
So
know?
speaking of brewing, what like so you learn the whys and you learn the house and you learn the whys, and now you're creating recipes for the pub. So where do you draw your inspiration for the recipes? Do you tend to brew more strictly to style, or do you tend to go outside those lines?
Well, now that depends on what I'm brewing. You know,
Okay.
I for one really like to brew West Coast style beers.
Okay.
So whether that be a West Coast style IPA,
Now,
or whether that be
if I can interrupt you for just 1 second, could you just define West Coast style?
hop forward.
Okay.
In my mind, West Coast style would always be hop forward.
So using a shovel instead of a spoon.
and C hops.
Put hops in.
C hops, or at least C hop profile.
Okay, like
Citrus, Amarillo, citrus.
Cascades, Chinook,
Yes.
Columbus,
Exactly.
Citra.
And these days, tropical fruit. I mean, because all the new hops, I mean, citrus is old school. Now everything's throwing tropical fruit. So
Right.
I mean, if you're not throwing tropical fruit, you're
That's
not.
how I explain Australian hops to people. It's like
Right.
they're exactly like West Coast hops, but with different fruit.
Exactly, pretty much. So I mean, and that's where I draw most of my inspiration from, you know. And it's not that I want to mimic what they're doing. I want to bring what they're doing to the East Coast.
Okay.
As far and add a little bit of Southern to that, you know. So I mean, for instance, last year I created what I call a Lexington style IPA, which is a smoked IPA with peaches in it. So it's got West Coast hop, it's got smoked malt, and it's got peaches. So I'm trying to mimic Lexington style barbecue. So
Okay.
we have basically, I wanted to have all of those flavors combined.
Did you smoke your own malt?
We did not. Now, we have had malt smoked by Mac's Speed Shop out of Charlotte. They smoked some malt for us a couple years ago, and we did a smoked porter with it, and that was very cool. Most of my smoked malt comes from, all of my specialty grain for the most part comes from Environment.
Okay.
So my smoked malt is their beach smoked
You
malt.
use the Beechwoods.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever played around with their oak smoked wheat?
I have played. We did a.
I love it. It makes a great Grotzer.
What was the traditional beer that was made with all of oak smoked wheat?
It's a Polish beer. It's called a Grotzer.
Yeah, we did a Grotzer. We did one Grotzer. It was not very well received.
I think it's more of a niche style.
It is very niche style. But I also didn't get enough smoke off the wheat. I thought the beach smoke barley has way more smoke.
Okay.
Now I tell you what, though, Durst smoke I think is even more smoky.
I haven't used Durst.
Durst is nice, and what we've done in the past is we've used both. Recently, I've just moved using the beach because I can throw a lot of beach smoke at it, and no, I'm not going to go over the top.
Right.
Durst, you got to be a little more careful with because it's really, really smoky.
I mean, my smoked porter, I use 80% beechwood smoke from Environment.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a lot of smoke.
Yeah. I like the intense smokiness of it.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would never use, we're using more like 10%.
Yeah, most people think I'm crazy.
Yeah,
80%
80% smoke is a lot of smoke. Yeah, that's like sucking on a piece of firewood, you know?
Almost, yeah, without the carbon.
Yeah, right.
But I think it's delicious. And that's the great thing about being able to make your own beer.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you know. And then as far as the style goes, yes, if I say I'm going to brew a North German Pils, I'm going to brew a North German Pils to style. But if I decide I'm going to brew some crazy version of a North German Pils, obviously, then I'm not going to brew it to style.
Well, I mean,
so we do both. We do a lot of, like, on Thursdays and Fridays in Greensboro, we have a beer on tap that's somewhat crazy. We usually infuse it.
Okay.
So we'll have infused beers on Thursdays and Fridays. Fridays are typically fruit beers. Thursdays can be anything. It's like, you know, and it's just a one-off. It's our 13th tap is what we call it. We have an extra tap there.
Okay.
And it's only for Thursdays. And it's basically a Randall without the trouble of a Randall. So we'll infuse it downstairs and put it in a corny keg or in a sixtel and actually have it pour correctly rather than having to deal with a Randall, right?
Okay. Yeah, I have one I've used for festivals before, and I hooked it up in my home system, and it was just such a
they're troublesome, man. I mean, it's a great idea, but it just does not work like it's supposed to.
I think if mine was a little fancier than a house water filter with some modifications.
Well, even Dogfish had stopped selling the Randall. I mean, the Randall doesn't work.
No.
It just doesn't work.
Everything foams up and
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you can never have it in a bar that serves more than 7 people at a time because of the fact that it just foams all the time.
Yeah, yeah, I've had problems with them.
So what we found is infusing, and what we use in Greensboro is we'll take.
Do you just like infuse the keg?
What we do is GW Kent makes it's for yeast propagation basically. But what it is it's a half barrel keg with a huge 4-inch opening on the top. It's got a 4-inch triclover on the top of it.
Oh, okay.
So we have this giant port on the top of it that we can cram stuff. We can clean it.
Yeah.
Put a valve on both sides.
Yeah, 'cause you don't
take
want to
the
be shoving
top
all that
off.
fruit through
Right.
a 2-inch hole.
We have this huge
Yeah.
hole. We cram everything down. We add the beer to it. We let it sit. We bring it out.
Okay.
We can do anything. We can dry hop in it. We can
So it's like,
we can ferment in it. We
yeah.
can add stuff to it. We can do whatever we want. So it's a neat little vessel, and basically they used it for yeast. I mean, the reason they built it was for yeast propagation, but we use it just for infusing beers.
Yeah. No, that sounds awesome. Like a corny keg, but without all those obnoxious parts.
Well, it's also 15.5 gallons. So I mean, it's like 3 corny kegs.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
Right. So you can really make some volume with it. So. And that's about what we serve. We'll have like 2 sixtels every Thursday of whatever the beer is going to be. This beer, for instance, tomorrow, we're just doing our Buckshot Amber unfiltered, which our Buckshot Amber is a filtered amber.
Right.
We're doing it unfiltered, but we're dry hopping it with Centennial. So we don't, I mean, that's normally like a traditional American amber ale with a very low hop profile. But we put a supercharged Centennial in there. So it's going to be like this way overcharged, like super hoppy amber ale.